Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome to my Ranger fans out there in New York. My condolences. Tough way to be bounced out, but what are you going to do? And to my Islander fans, my buddies, great job. I know hockey has nothing to do with racing, but I know the good thing about this is that 22 Figure 8 now will not have to leave the chat room to go, check up on the score because the Rangers are out. I'm only joking with you, big guy. Anyway, a lot happening in the world of racing, and some sad news, I guess you could say, is that what do we got here? Rockingham Speedway, North Carolina, is going up for auction as Bill Silas, the current owner, cites large financial losses after an ARCA event and even larger losses after a Camping World Truck Series. It kind of put them just in a hole that they couldn't dig out of. Former NASCAR competitor Andy Hillenberg, who came on board as a partner in efforts to save the track in the past, and Silas have suggested that they partner up and try to save it. Now, that didn't happen. Hillenberg was told to either buy me out from Silas or find an owner or a new buyer, and they couldn't do that. And the track and the surrounding property was for sale, but Hillenberg declined to let that happen. And now the place is going up for auction. So the entire racetrack, the surrounding properties, another racetrack is going to be gone. Because nobody bought it up to now, and I can't see anybody stepping in at the 11th hour and saying, all right, I think I'll save this speedway. And one of the things that happens, everybody thinks it's so easy to run a racetrack, that you show up, you open the gates and build it and they will come type of attitude. And that's not what happens. There's a lot behind the scenes, as Bill Silas had said. They didn't get the marketing partners that they needed. They didn't have the money. The sponsorships didn't come. Commitments were not followed up with or followed through with, and they just didn't have the money. And you could just go to the bank so many times and pull money out, to the point that now you're using the bank's money, and the bank finally says enough is enough. Bill Silas had planned to make this facility something that his son could run in the future, and experience the financial gains that he had, the father himself, years ago. And like I said, it just didn't happen. So Rockingham Speedway in North Carolina is on the auction block, and I'm sure there's a lot of debt involved with that. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And like I said, to lose another racetrack, they're not building too many new ones. They're just not building too many new ones. And here's another. There was some good racing at the Rock, as they called it. Back in the day, back in the mid-'90s, when I kind of lived part-time in Greensboro/High Point while working on a project, I had the opportunity one weekend to go to the Rock, as they call it. And I'll tell you what, I had a really good time. It was a unique place. It wasn't one of those cookie-cutter places, that looked like the mile and a half that you see now, or things of that nature. But it was a good old racetrack. The kind where you had to race it, you had to drive it, and it's a shame. And I hate seeing racetracks go by the wayside, because it's just not good. And and again, a lot of people say, well, why doesn't NASCAR step in? Why? International Speedway Corp is the corporation in NASCAR that owns certain racetracks, and how many are they going to bail out? I mean, come on, let's go. There's just so much money going on. And it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. And at the end of the day, you need to be profitable. And you don't do this for the love of the sport at that level. or in my opinion, at any level. It's all about making money and sustaining your business so that you're here next year and the year after and the year after that. So it's a shame, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. And speaking of financial woes, NASCAR in the Sprint Cup Series still has no title sponsor for its Premier Series in 2017. Sprint has announced that this is their last season. They announced that last year, and it's a boatload of money to be the title sponsor in the Sprint Cup Series. It's a boatload of money, and don't be surprised to see if they do get a sponsor. It's going to be a partnership. It's going to be probably two big corporations because nobody has that kind of money anymore to plop down and just to have their name as, the Acme Cup Series. Nobody has those. The companies are not, the bank isn't giving out the monies like it used to years ago, and they just don't have it. It's just not out there. And, corporate giants, I'll tell you what, if I was a marketing guy at one of the Fortune 500 companies and NASCAR approached me and said, hey, would you guys be interested in being a title sponsor? This is what you're going to get. They sold me a nice, good package. My question is going to go back to them is, you have declining TV ratings and the stands are empty. What am I putting my name to? And I think that's part of the problem. Because, with declining TV ratings in 2016, the worst that they've ever been in the history of NASCAR TV, there's empty seats everywhere, even though the camera people do their best not to show it for long periods of time. It's going to be tough to entice a corporate sponsor to come in and put up millions and millions and millions of dollars and lock in for, more than just one season. So I'm not thinking too many people, large corporations in America, are going to be that quick to write that big check and become the title sponsor. It might go back to the way it was in the 50s and the 60s, and they were just called Grand National Stock Cars with no title sponsor. And that all changed in '72 when Winston came on board, and then that all changed when the government said cigarette advertising was banned, and the rest is history. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because it's kind of scary. People didn't walk out of the NASCAR thing years ago, out of the NASCAR family of sponsorship. They didn't walk away when their contract was expired. They re-signed up. All those years that Winston was involved with NASCAR, from the highest level to the lowest level, they gave the weekly racing series tracks free red paint to paint walls and buildings and whatever they wanted to do with it, and it just kept coming. And those days are gone. Those days are over. And you have these bean counters now who sit at the corporate table and they want to return on that investment. They want to return. They want to say, okay, we put up, $20 million. We need to make $20 million back plus whatever we're looking to make. And I know firsthand that when UPS came on board with the Robert Yates Racing and Dale Jarrett, UPS put up $16 million, and for every dollar that UPS put up, they made back $1.30. So that's a pretty good deal. So, you're putting up $16 million, you're getting back in return, $24 million. That's a good deal. Plus the exposure, plus they became the exclusive express shipping company for NASCAR at the time. A couple of races were they sponsored, and they made money out of it. They got a piece of the merchandising, and I'm sure whoever comes in is going to get the same deal, but it's corporate-wise. Now you multiply that by 40 teams, that's about what it costs to be the title sponsor. It's about what it costs, so it's big dollars. And like I said, with TV revenues and ratings declining, it's going to be a tough nut to get. And marketing people today are a little bit smarter. They don't do this because, I'm the title guy. They don't do that anymore. It's all about dollars and cents in their pocket. They don't do this stuff just because they want to have be advertised in their company. Think about it. It's a big return when it was the Sprint Cup as it is now. How many cell phones did Sprint sell in extra, and how many sign-ups did they get because it was the Sprint Cup? The Sprint probably sat back and looked like, hey, we're not really seeing that mix of a game. So just something to think about. Anyway, ROC Race of Champions. A settlement nears as both Joe Scott Nicky, new owner of the series, and Andrew Harple, former owner of the series, met in court recently before the Honorable Ferris D. LeBeau. Progress has been made, and Scott Nicky's claims that he was to receive the series debt-free as agreed upon and signed upon in contract, and it did not happen, will probably happen. But neither side is willing to discuss the terms, as LeBeau has put a gag order on the proceedings until everything is finalized. The Race of Champions series ran this past weekend. They are scheduled in a couple of weeks again. And let's see what happens. But the tire companies, Hoosier and American Racer, are still owed a lot of money. And they want that money, and it's going to come from somewhere. And it would be a shame that the new series owner shows up at a racetrack and they can't get tires for their competitors because, as far as the tire manufacturers are concerned, there's an outstanding bill. So this is what happens. And you know, some of these owners in these series, like, reminds me of the old days before NASCAR took over back in '48. And these drivers would go to this track, and it was, XYZ to win, and you were guaranteed, X, and they'd be racing, and the promoter would take off with all the money. And that's what it looks like has happened here with the ROC. The ROC is so debt-ridden that Joe Scott Nicky, and I know Joe Scott, I know Joe Scott Nicky a lot of years, he would have been better off letting them just fold up and starting this new thing and calling it something else. But, hindsight's 20/20 vision. It looked like a good deal. And when he shook hands and signed, put his name on the dotted line, along with Andrew Harple, it was debt-free. All the debt's covered, all the debt's paid, I owe nobody. Okay, you're good. And you find out millions of dollars was owed. And some of the drivers weren't even paid as well, so you can't do that. So let's see how that pans out. I know the drivers are still going to race, and I'll tell you what, in some cases, I've said this before, it's not about the money to the drivers in most cases. It's about that trophy and the bragging rights. And I heard a story just this past week, and they were talking about a promoter who there was no people in the stands. And these guys were going to go race, and the promoter had a driver's meeting. He says, "Look, guys, there's nobody in the stands. I can't pay you. I can't pay what I said I was going to pay. No, nobody's coming." It was weather issues, all kinds of stuff, which is a promoter's nightmare. And one of the guys raised his hand and says, "Can I speak?" And the guy says, "Sure." He said, "You got a trophy?" He goes, "I got a trophy." Then we're racing. And the drivers walked away, got in their cars, and they went and raced. And it was one heck of a race from what I'm told. So anyway, race car drivers are finicky people. They're funny guys, but they just want to race. It's about bragging rights. The late Chris Young once told me, if you win on Saturday night, you have bragging rights till next week. But if you win the last night of the season, you have bragging rights all winter long. Think about that. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour when we come back. Huh?
What's up, guys? We're Scano Fair, and we're here with Inravio. If they catch you at a show with one of these bracelets, you will win $100.
That's a lot of money.
So get a bracelet.
Do whatever it takes to get that. Hit them up online.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
All right, welcome back. The NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour was at Stafford Motor Speedway in Stafford Springs, Connecticut this past weekend for the annual Spring Sizzler. And on hand was Ted Christopher, TC Ted Christopher, who he was back in action on the tour, driving the 00 in honor of his fallen friend and longtime car owner Joe Brady, who was killed by a drunk driver during the off-season. TC also drove the car, the 00, at the Concord Motorsports Park in the Whelen Southern Modified event, finishing second. Teddy was not a contender in the race at the Sizzler. And the way it went down, Doug Colby, defending NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion, took the win from the pole, with Todd Zegedy second, Rowan Pennick finishing third. Timmy Solomino finished fourth after a pit road penalty put him to the back of the pack. Justin Bonsignor was fifth. Sean Solomino was sixth. Bobby Santos, seventh. Chase Dowling was eighth, followed by Brendan Bach, ninth, and Max Zeckham rounding out the top 10. A full field on hand. And I'll tell you what, when you look at the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour and their schedule in 2016, a couple of new venues and some new drivers coming in, and I'll tell you what, I had some concerns. I'm going to be honest. I had some concerns last year. Just looking at the schedule, what the schedule was last year, what the schedule was just a few years ago. Lost racetracks, tracks that they used to go to if they didn't anymore. They got some of those back. And Seekonk was one of my favorites because I'll tell you what, I'm not a fan of the big tracks for the modifieds. I'm just not. I like those little bull rings. I like watching these guys pass and earn their way and bump and grind to the finish. And, Seekonk, which is, it's a circle. It's a circle if you've ever been there. Tough place to race a modified, place to race anything. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the tour pans out there. And of course, they're at Waterford. In fact, they're at Waterford next, back in the middle of May. They'll be headed to the London Waterford Speed Bowl in May, and that'll be a great event as well. So Timmy Solomino, he was running right up there, and he pitted, got a pit road penalty, and he had to go to the back. And he worked his way back up. And I'm looking at these names in the top 10 here, and you have Timmy Solomino, Long Islander, Justin Bonsignor finished fifth, Long Islander, Sean Solomino, Long Islander, and Brendan Bach, a Long Islander. So, here we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top 10 that ran at Stafford this week were from Long Island. Now, years ago, when I first went on to the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, full-time in 03, but part-time in 01, there were really very few Long Islanders. The late, great Tommy Baldwin, Tiger Tom, he was the Long Island guy. J.R. Bertuccio from Long Island, he used to go up and run, select shows. And, beyond that, there weren't too many Long Islanders on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. And I'm going to say now, there's at least a third of the drivers are from Long Island. And Long Island used to be the hotbed of racing years ago, and it kind of went through a little stumbling. But I think that's changed, and I'm not talking old guys. These are kids. These are young guys in their early 20s. You know, the Salamino brothers in their early 20s, and Justin Bonsignor, you know, his late 20s, and Brendan Bach, he's in his teens still. So it's going to be interesting to see how the makeup of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour is going to change. It used to be Jersey, Connecticut. Long Island has a lot to offer here in racing, and I think you're going to see a lot more Long Islands moving up. And with the addition of the other modified classes here on Long Island at the new Riverhead Raceway, you know, you're going to see guys are going from like go-karts to modifieds, and you know, some of them ran out of money, some of them just didn't make it, but now they can make a stepping stone, you know, SK type, crate motor type, and then, you know, tour type mods, and move up the ranks. And I think that's important. And for what I'm hearing, you know, there's going to be heat races in all divisions here on Long Island, and seat time. And I've talked about this for a couple of years. Seat time is important. You know, you do a couple of practice rounds, okay, you know, you're dialing your car and you're really not in race trim. You know, then you're just, okay, all right, we don't have enough cars to fill the field, so you're in the show, and, you know, you're in the back because, you know, you're a rookie, and you really don't get that experience. And I'll tell you what, it's good to have a guy or a gal to be able to start up front in the heat race, get that checker flag picture, you know, show the sponsors, get that confidence built. It's funny how a win just builds up your confidence. So, you know, and as you can see, these Long Islanders are a force to reckon with here at the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Speaking of a guy who worked his way through the ranks, Jerry Nadeau, former NASCAR competitor, he still battles the ill effects of a devastating head injury he suffered many years ago. The Connecticut native began racing at the age of 3 years old in go-karts and worked his up to the Sprint Cup Series level in 1997. And in May of 2003, at 32 years old, he crashed at Richmond during practice, and he's never been the same. Head trauma, internal injuries. Shortly there, I mean, months after this, him and his wife divorced. His dad passed away a couple of years later. His dad was his cheerleader, his mentor, and you know, right now he's trying to make a living, from what I understand, as a driving instructor, and not as on a racetrack in the streets or for kids and people who are trying to learn how to drive. And this is a big thing. This head trauma. You know, Ernie Irvin, look what it did to him. Steve Park, although Steve Park still dabbles once in a while. Head trauma. Like Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's donated his brain for when he does pass on, and that so they could study the injuries that race car drivers get, just like in football, in the NFL. You know, think about a race car driver. You know, even though you have that helmet on, your brain is encapsulated, and you're in a violent wreck. And even though the helmet saved you, you know, let's say you hit this side, your brain is still going that way. And your brain actually then gets injured. And there's just so many of those you could take before you got a little issue. So, you know, I only wish, you know, Jerry Nadeau the best. And hopefully, you know, he's doing well. You know, usually the negative doesn't come out, but you know, a head trauma that took him out of what he did his whole life, 29 years of his life racing, a head injury. And, you know, that's something to think about. So just wanted to get that out there, because a lot of people, you know, a guy like that, they forget about him. You know, so anyway, tonight, I want to introduce our new, I guess, marketing partner, Bethel Motor Speedway. Tracy Chargo from the Bethel Motor Speedway, the business operations manager, and the 505 on Racing Show have partnered up. And we will be doing the Bethel results. So when we come back, we will have the results from Bethel. And we'll talk about what's going on up at Bethel Motor Speedway, upstate New York, when we come back.
Inravio.com wants you. Inravio provides the best in TV, film, post-production, and so much more. And we're growing. Right now, we're looking for a team of pros that can join us. So what are you waiting for? We need show hosts, production crew, marketing gurus, sales experts, audio engineers, lighting, visual effects, and camera crews. We want you. Go to Inravio.com/join the team.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Murphy Weller. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, we get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, this is Chris West Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Hey, welcome back. We are back. So, Bethel Motor Speedway. Yes, up there just past the Monticello Raceway, where they race horses. And, which is hard to not stop in and play a little horses on the way up. But anyway, I want to thank Tracy and her staff for coming on board. Bethel Motor Speedway, I had my first trip into Bethel Motor Speedway when it was called White Lake Speedway in 1998. I had a great time there, and I've had a great time ever since. And every time I go to Bethel Motor Speedway, even during rain, when it rained and got quick story, we drove all the way up. And the rain is like following us. And we get about, 20 minutes from the racetrack, and I get a call from Tracy. We just pulled the plug, we canceled, so don't come up. It's too late, we're in the driveway. I mean, but what are you gonna do? But we made the best of it, we had a good time that day. We actually had some nice interviews, nice talk, and got a tour of the facility while it was empty. And there's a lot going on at Bethel Motor Speedway. But anyway, this past weekend at Bethel Motor Speedway, the Bethel Modifieds. Blair Colane, I hope I said that right, was the winner with John Coates second. Joe DeGracia was third. Skip LaPolte fourth, and Rob Rafferty was fifth. In the 358 Sportsmen's, we had Rick Mill was the winner, followed by Rich Coons, Kyle Redner, and Rudy Roth the fourth, and fifth, Michael Duckter. And I hope I'm saying these things right here. Legend Cars, Alexander Smith was the winner, followed by Chris Rogers, followed by, and then third, Richie Coy. Drew Bartage was fourth, and David French was fifth. In the Bandoleros, we had Tyler Dachenhaust. Did I get that right? Sean Verries, Eugene Storm, Teddy Owen, and Mike Roth. And in the Street Stocks, Kyle Welsh, Carrie Van Orden, Walt Henry, Steve Smalley, Arthur MacArthur. The Pro Stocks was Ed Butler, Jim Hetz, Mac Creston, I hope I got that right, and Darren Moore. In the four-cylinder advance, we had Mikey Travis, Brian Bauerenfeld, Tasha Corey, and David Donovan, and Jerry Hingeter. I'm going to have to study on these names because they're not like Long Island names like Bertuccio, Vigarola, Sapienza. They're different. Italian names I can say pretty good. But my apologies if I botched up your name. But I want to thank all the folks at Bethel Motor Speedway for coming on board as a marketing partner in the Inravio TV and the 505 on Racing Show. So thank you, Tracy, for getting those results, and it'll be a fun thing to do as we go moving forward. And Tracy has committed to coming down and being a guest co-host one of these Monday nights when her schedule frees her up to come. So we're kind of looking forward to that big time. So, yeah, Tracy, we were in the park. You know, here's the thing. And Tracy, not that I ignored the chat room. We were in the parking like at 10 a.m. because, well, there's a couple of reasons. My driver, Kevin Basic, he likes to get up there early because you never know what's going to happen. And B, we like to stop and have something to eat. You never know what kind of traffic you're going to have. Sometimes getting off the island is a couple hours, but there was no traffic that day. We zipped through the city. We zipped up the freeway, and we were there. And we didn't stop at the casino, so we were there early. And next time we get that early, we'll let you know we're like close, so we can maybe have breakfast or something. All right, only kidding. But yes, and Tracy got bit by a spider, and had to go to emergency care and get taken care of. So we wish you well. I hope everything's going fine there, because it's funny, you get bit by a bug, you don't know what it is. All of a sudden you have a dot, and that dot turns into a size of a dime and a nickel and a quarter and a $half. Before you know it, you're all blown up, and that's not good. So Tracy, I hope you're feeling better. All right, what do we got going? I know Dino Alberto was supposed to call in at 7:30, and we'll bring Dino on right now. Dino, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Hey, I couldn't get up into Pennsylvania this past weekend. We had emergency situations at work with a new computer system that kind of went fouled up, and I had to try to save the day, which I didn't. So I should have went up racing. And how'd it go this weekend for you?
It went outstanding. It was great. It was everything we expected it to be. Man, it was just, it came out to be, unfortunately, 2 weeks late, but the stars came out from ROC. It was their first race of the season. We had all of our regular guys there, and it was a classic battle between Eric Beers, Matt Hirschman. So it was just great. I mean, the weather cooperated. The drivers, they put on a terrific show in that modified feature. And as a matter of fact, the entire night went fantastic, with the exception of one or two things. The amplifier blew up on us, and we had some issues with our score, with our lap counter. But other than that, we got through the night perfectly.
Nice. Now, Dino, there's a lot of talk with the issues that are going on with the ROC, Joe Skotnicki, and the former owners. I know you had the opportunity to speak with Skotnicki. Tell us what you can, if you can, what's going on for that.
Well, right now it's all systems go for the Race of Champions, for Joe Skotnicki and company. They had their court hearing. Their court dealing was back on April the 12th of last week. There were some things there was issues that were settled in that court appearance. And Joe is going to proceed as the new head, as he has been, of the Ferris Mowers Race of Champions Asphalt Modified Series Tour, fueled by Sunoco, as well as the Dirt Series of the Race of Champions. There is going to be some payments being made to some creditors that were owed money. Joe had his money put in escrow, and that will be distributed the way it's supposed to. And there'll be some things coming down the road that I believe they have to do maybe one more dealing before a judge. But other than that, right now, this matter is basically settled.
Excellent. And Dino, give me a favor, getting feedback from your computer. If you could just lower the volume there a little bit, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Let me see what we're doing here. I hope that works.
That sounds better. Yeah, the control room gave me a thumbs up. That was perfect. Now, Dino, I understand you had a ton of cars show up for this race. How many cars you have show up for this?
We had 32, less than anticipated. But, Joe, I will tell you this. Had this been on April the 9th, we were set to run a non-qualifiers race. We were going to pay a purse for that, $800 to win. I think it would have been fantastic, but we still had a respectable showing of 32 modifieds there. You can't ask for anything better than that, pavement cars, so very good.
Mm-hmm. And what, 24 started your race? So you sent 8 home?
26 started this race. And, Joe, the most awesome thing that we've never done before, and now this is going to be the thing going forward with the Race of Champions, but they did a 4-wide salute to the fans, and there was a lot of skepticism, a lot of criticism, a lot of naysayers that were were thinking we'll never be able to pull this off at a place like Mahoney Valley Speedway. Well, let me tell you, the pictures speak for themselves. It was just an awesome sight to see 26 cars in rows of 4. You've seen it with the World of Outlaws. Well, guess what? We pulled it off, and we knocked it out of the park with the modifieds here. It was great.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, you made a point here. You said for the fans, and if it wasn't for the fans, we'd be doing something else on Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons.
Joe, our fans at Mahoney Valley Speedway, they are the true passion, I think, of what short track racing is about, and I'm sure every racetrack will tell you the exact same thing. Mahoney Valley, I think, is as grassroots as it gets because of the location, because of the locality of all the fans that are coming there, the home base in the Lehighton area, in the northeastern Pennsylvania area, and the great people that we have coming in from New Jersey every week, and that it's such a family atmosphere there, and the generations of racing at that track that goes back 2, 3, and 4 deep, it just is amazing. It's what actually fuels me and what I enjoy, I think, the most about it. So it was great. We had a lot of new fans come down for this show because, again, the Race of Champions has their own following, and we were so happy to entertain them as well.
Right.
We actually had a group come up from West Virginia. That's how awesome this was.
It's funny. I share a story about your racetrack with people sometimes, and I had never gone to Mahoney Valley Speedway, and a friend of mine who passed away over the winter, he had begged me to go, and he was like, "Oh, come on, go. Your officiating days are over, your driving days are over. Come on, let's go watch some races." And I did not want to go. I was not going to go in my car and go over to Mahoney Valley Speedway in October and freeze my toes off. Well, I'll tell you what. I went there that day, and I had an awesome time. The people in the stands were great. The fans, the officials, the drivers, we walked around. And even though I've gone back with the 505 Racing Show, your people treat me like I've been going there for my lifetime. And that's a credit to your staff and organization at that raceway.
Well, and I think that's great. And we appreciate what you guys are doing, trust me. It's not just about us putting a link on our website, on our Facebook page, saying, hey, you know what, watch these guys. No, this is us working with you, you working with us, but it's also an appreciation for what you do for us. And it's not just guys like you. Our good friend Mike O'Brien, all he does with his video work, and we're linked with him, but he's there every week, and he distributes things for us throughout the media in terms of video. And we have other media sources that come there, all the photographers and everything else. So it really matters to us, and we're very grateful for everything, not just our fans. We love them, and the drivers, the teams, but the staff workers that are there, and everybody that makes it a solid unit. It's a core unit, and I think that's why Mahoney Valley Speedway remains so successful at what we do in presenting Saturday night short track racing. So, and again, Joe, you look back at the excitement that was built up to it, and what's really great, the ROC drivers were they weren't exactly doing dances saying, hey, guess what, our season's going to start. They were like, what do you mean our season's going to start at Mahoning Valley Speedway? This was a completely out in left field shot for those guys. So they came down there. Our early practice, I've never seen it that busy before. With so many guys, and you got to think of the travel that was put in by them. Some of them upstate New York, further past Buffalo. Excuse me. But they got there. They had to get acclimated to it. Some of the best in the business coming down there. You had guys like Patrick Emmerling. He set fast time for the night. And here's a guy that, he's as good as it gets. T.J. Potrabowski, another guy as good as it gets. And they were having some issues trying to get around here. The one guy who really, I think, did the best, aside from Matty Hirschman, who knows that track as good as everybody when it comes to ROC guys, but Chuck Hosfeld. And he wants to win there in the worst way. And he actually sounds like you in a sense because he loves the fans and he sees the passion that's all part of what Mahoning Valley is all about. Back-to-back weeks now. Chuck came down last week just to run a 35-lap race. Can you imagine that? He towed over 5 hours just to do that because he wants to win there. He wants to do well. But oddly enough, he has never won a race in the state of Pennsylvania, and I think it's going to come maybe later this year for Oktoberfest because they're all coming back because we get to book in this whole deal. So they all did great, and they all, I think now they all want to come back because the Mahoning Valley bug has bit these guys, and they see what it's all about. So I'm sure they're all coming back.
All right. Well, Dino, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and calling in and for what you do for the 5051 Racing Show as well.
Oh, no, my pleasure, Joe. I'd like to throw a shout out to our the other features real quick that we had there that night, right down to the wire. The Paul Kohler, Mike Sweeney, Travis Fisher in the late models, right at the line. Tiffany Wombold, right at the line over Devin Schmidt and Kyle Sisko in the hobby stocks, and Zach Graver passing George Ramos late in the street stocks. Just amazing racing. The support divisions are part of what the product is all about there.
Absolutely. You can't do it without the sport, guys.
Absolutely.
So, again, I wish you a good season. I'll be back up to see you, without a doubt, and I appreciate everything you do for us.
My pleasure, and I look forward to it.
All righty. Dino Alberto from the Mahoning Valley Speedway up in Pennsylvania. And we'll be back.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
What's up, guys? We're Scare No Fear, and we're here with Inravio. If they catch you at a show with one of these bracelets, you will win $100.
That's a lot of money.
So get a bracelet.
Do whatever it takes to get that. Hit them up online.
welcome back. And before we go into what went on at Richmond this past weekend, at Orange County Fair Speedway, the URC Sprints was won by Dave Frank, and the Sportsman was won by Allison Rickey. At Evergreen, Matty Hirschman took the win there, and at the Mahoning Valley Speedway, Eric Beers took down the win there with Matty Hirschman pounding his bumper, crossing the line second. So, again, thank you to Dino Oberto for calling in and sharing his information with us. I appreciate that. Yeah, some Cup stuff. What's going on? Well, Tony Stewart was recently fined $35,000 for violating one of NASCAR's Sprint Cup Series rules that's in the book. According to Section 12-8-1, Stewart was fined due to disparaging remarks towards NASCAR leadership. Stewart had announced he was cleared, and Stewart had announced that he was cleared by doctors of the race, and right after that, NASCAR slammed him with this fine. Now, a lot of people say he should have a right to his own opinion. It's America, blah, 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 blah. And you're right. But once you sign that thing for your license, the application, you fill it out, you sign in, and then you flip it back, and you sign in two spots. For those of you who've ever filled out a NASCAR application, one of them says you're going to abide by the rule book. One of them is a liability thing. Now, if the rule book says you can't say bad things, you can't say bad things. Everybody's saying, he has a right to speak. And he does have a right to speak. And there's a forum for that, and there's a way to do that. And Tony Stewart, he's 44 years old. He's been doing this a long time. He speaks his mind. And I respect that in any individual. I like to know where you stand. And he let NASCAR know where he stood on a certain thing. But in his method of doing that, he put NASCAR down. He put the officials down. And NASCAR looked at it as disparaging remarks. You can't do that. Well, the other drivers felt that he was right as well, because the Drivers' Council, made up of many of the Sprint Cup Series drivers, paid Tony Stewart's fine, feeling Stewart was right to express his opinion on something that they felt was safety. So Tony Stewart back in the saddle, back telling NASCAR how to do it. Yes, Tony Stewart. I had the opportunity many, many years ago. He missed the drivers' meeting when he was going to run a modified at New Hampshire, and because he was practicing. So you can't hold that against the guy. So I had a one-on-one session with him of, I had to basically read the notes from the drivers' meeting to him, go over anything, answer any questions, and the intensity. He just stood there like this and stared at me. And I was like, I'm reading my paper. I'm like, holy cow, this is serious. And it is serious. But, it was kind of interesting. But anyway. Rumors in the Cup Garage area have Matt Kenseth retiring after the 2016 season. However, Kenseth, who turns 44 in May, vehemently denies the rumors. Says his team is still profitable, they're still successful, he's not going anywhere. I sometimes wonder where these rumors come from, because people hear things and like they walk into the middle of a story. And all of a sudden, they're going to tell their friend who tells a friend whether, and the race that was won by this much, then the guy lapped the field 17 times. So it's like the old fish story. But Matt Kenseth is going to be around for a little while longer, trust me. In the Truck Series, Red Horse Racing parted company with Ben Kennedy. The team had agreed to run the first 3 races in 2016, and Kennedy now will be out of a ride in the 11 truck for the remainder of the season. Kennedy is the son of Lisa France Kennedy, the NASCAR CEO, and also the grandson of Bill France Jr. Now, I'm thinking if I'm a sponsor and I have a guy driving for me, and he's related to the France family, like directly by blood, I don't know, but racing's business, it's all about business. And I guess they weren't happy with the results or what was going on. Maybe they didn't get the sponsorship they're looking for. But Ben Kennedy, who I happened to meet and had the opportunity to speak with while I was with the K&N Pro Series East, and Lisa France Kennedy, who thanked me when I bumped their car from Tech 3 times because their car wasn't exactly right, and other officials said to me, do you know who that is? And I said, yes, I do. And my job is to follow the rules. And everybody just shook their head. And then when they went over like the 4th time and finally passed, She came over, Lisa France Kennedy came over and shook my hand and said, thank you. Because most people just let us get away with stuff because of who we are. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, just one of those things. But it'll be interesting to see where Ben ends up, because he's not going to be sit out. He's a talented young racer, and I think he'll be fine. Joey Chitwood III, president of Daytona International Speedway since 2010, has been promoted to Chief Operating Officer for International Speedway Corp. With Childress's promotion, Darlington International Speedway President Chip Wilkie will now replace Chitwood. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Joey Chitwood, son of the legendary Chitwood Thrill Show people, who was he made a lot of changes at Daytona International Speedway. He orchestrated the improvements that were done in the off season. So Chitwood will be going on as the Chief Operating Officer, and that's a big step. Anyway, Richmond was this past weekend. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the Xfinity race, followed by Ty Dillon. Elliott Sadler was third. Daniel Suarez was fourth. Austin Dillon fifth. Cole Custer sixth. Brendan Gaughan was seventh. Blake Koch was eighth. Brad Keselowski ninth. And following in top 10 was Brennan Poole. Eric Jones had the pole. He finished a dismal 34th as being caught up in an accident. In the Cup level, Carl Edwards bumped Kyle Busch out of the way coming off of turn 4 to take down the win, with Kyle Busch second, Jimmy Johnson finishing third, Casey Kane fourth, Kevin Harvick was fifth from the pole, Denny Hamlin sixth, Matt Kenseth seventh, Joey Logano eighth, Martin Truex Jr. ninth, and Kurt Busch rounding out the top 10. Interesting, when you watched that race, when you watched that unfold, that the white flag came out, Kyle Busch is running first, and there he is, Carl Edwards. He's like right there. He got went into one of the turns. He got his nose in, and he backed off coming off of the turn. And I said it. I said, he's going to bump him. He's going to bump him, and he's going to get him squirrely. And sure enough, the bump came. He didn't send him out of the way. He didn't dump him. He gave him a little bump, got him a little squirrely, just enough that Kyle had a lift. Carl Edwards goes on to win the race. Now, the old Kyle Busch probably would have gotten out of the car at the end or wrecked him during warm, cool down laps or whatever. But it's kind of funny because in his post-race interview, he just said, well, I guess that's racing. That's not over, folks. Look to see a payback down the road here. It's going to come. And these guys are just like the other racers, whether you're racing at a weekly track on Saturday night or in the highest level. You don't forget that stuff. Hey, whoa, this guy cost me a win. Now, he might not get him next week. He might not get him 3 weeks from now. But the shoe's going to be on the foot one of these days. And that's when the payback's going to be. And it was, why would you say that? Because that's what's going to happen. I've been in and around this business for a long time. And, you can't do it right away. And, because if you plot it out, you can't do it right away. You can't, I'm going to get this guy right now. All the cameras are on the winner, so you're not going to go wreck him as he's doing his cool-down lap or doing his donuts or his burnouts. You're going to wait, And this has happened time and time again. And, people can say, well, it's up to NASCAR to don't make sure it doesn't happen. NASCAR can't control what the guys do once they're strapped in the race car. They just can't. Can they talk to them and say, hey, listen, guys, we don't want any repercussions? And it's still going to happen. It reminds me of back in the day, I had 2 late model drivers who kept wrecking with each other week after week, race after race. And they were junking up the show, these 2 guys, trust me. And the first wreck was an accident. The second race was, all right, I'm going to run this guy hard. He ain't getting by me. But then the third one was on purpose. Then the payback on the fourth one. And we're mid-season, and I don't think they finished the race yet. So I bring them both into the trailer, and I say, guys, listen. You guys like wrecking every week? You guys like wrecking each other week after week and spending all week fixing your cars instead of making your cars better? Well, listen, I'm going to get the crash out of here. Go to the local junkyard and build a demo car. There's a demolition derby in 2 weeks. The late models are off that day. You're not racing your late models until you race this demolition derby and crash each other. Don't hit any other competitors. Crash each other the whole derby. And hopefully you'll get it out of your system. Well, the one guy went and did the right thing. He went and built his demolition derby car, however you build demolition derby cars. And he was ready to go, and the other guy, like a couple of days later, said, "Are you serious?" "Yeah, I'm serious." So I guess at the 11th hour, he put something together, and then I told him, "Listen, you don't have to do the demo. Suffered enough. You can race your lane miles." And I don't think they touched since. And it's like 10, 12 years ago. Because sometimes you have to do those things. You have to do those things to keep people in line, keep people in check. So this isn't over between Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch, by no means. And speaking of it's not over, I got to say this, the new Riverhead Raceway opened up for practice this past weekend, and rave reviews about the facility and what they did, and some of the things. I did not go out there. I'll probably go out there open tonight, but everybody I spoke to that was there said it was the changes were awesome. The staff was nice. Everything was good. Everything was smooth. You always have some negative people, but you know what? Come on. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And there's going to be growing pains. Believe me when I tell you, there's going to be growing pains. You have new ownership, and you have a person who's used to doing it one way with the old owners who's now doing it a new way with the new ownership. And I only wish them well, and I'm looking forward to going out and seeing some good hard racing. Because I first went to Riverhead Raceway in the early 70s, and I was just a kid. I remember a clown running around, blowing up balloons. My little brother was like, I don't know, how old was I? I was maybe 13, so my little brother was maybe 5. And the clown blowing up balloons and getting them into it, those are the good things and that you remember. And I think all that family atmosphere is going to come back to the racetrack, as it needs to be at all the racetracks, all the weekly racetracks across the country. As Dean Alberto had said, it's about the fans. And if you put a good product out there, they're going to come. They're going to come. And when I say a good product, people want to see racing. They don't want to see downtime. They don't want to see, 20 minutes to clean up an oil spill. They want to see racing. They want to keep it coming, keep it coming. As the race that just ended leaves the track, the new one's coming out on the track. And one of my things as a fan, I'll call it from a fan's point of view, there's nothing worse than having a field of cars go on the racetrack and then an official has to jump out and start lining them up. Come on, you go to the board, wherever they have the lineup, okay, I'm 5th, so the 3rd place guy is number 17, I line up behind him. Why is that so difficult for race car drivers to do in the weekly series? They don't know where they're starting. And they pull on the track and they go to the back, they wait to be waved up. You know what? Here's my thought. If that's where you want to go, that's where you're starting. Line up where you need to be. It speeds up the show. The fans don't want to see that nonsense. They don't want to see non-racing stuff going on while there should be a race. The fans don't want to see long, drawn-out cleanups. They don't want to see cautions. It's like the guy who gets sideways and the field went halfway down the straightaway, and he's going to sit there to draw a caution, so he's at the back. No. Get it going. Why sit there? You're going to be in the back anyway. Whether you're 20th a lap down or 20th on the lead lap, you're still 20th. I don't know. I just don't understand that. But anyway, I think it's time to wrap up, I think. I'm looking at the clock, I'm getting, maybe. But anyway, I know there's a lot going on. There's some tracks that are opening up. There's some good stuff happening. Orange County Fair Speedway has a nice show coming up this weekend. And the weekly tracks are getting ready to start pumping up, and that's all good. And some sponsorship things are happening. And if, you're in the Long Island area, want to be a guest on the show, just let us know. And we'll work something out, get you down here. You can pump up your team, your sponsors, what you're doing, what your plans are, where you came from, and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for taking time out of a busy schedule. It's nice to see 22 Figure 8 doesn't have to leave the chat room and go check the Ranger score. Really sorry, Bill. I know, just wasn't their time, And but everybody who came on and listened and watched, and even those of you who go on during the week and check it out, I appreciate that. Inravio TV, thanks you as well. And if you missed those anniversary shows, they're up on in our site. Check them out. I actually went and watched them both myself this past weekend. Good shows, and and again, I want to thank Bobby Finan from Riverhead Raceway for coming out. Mike Jarecki from MyRaceNews.com. Say that 3 times fast. And of course, Roger Oxy, who drives hours and hours to get here to be a part of our show, and I thank him. Anyway, so everybody, wherever your endeavors bring you this next upcoming week, please be safe, please be careful. Tell somebody you love them, give them a hug. God bless you all, and we'll see you Monday night. Thank you.